just, kind of irritated me that they've done this for so many years. And
well, the reason that they have, of course, is because they could never, ever get it to pass an environmental impact statement.
Right.
And the timing on it was appropriate because they figured, well, by the time the public wises up and there's a giant hue and cry, there will be so few years left that we needn't really concern ourselves with them.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
So there are so few years left before we reach the middle point of the big squeeze here,
right.
And that this is actually part of that componentry because they were hoping that the chemtrails, the barium specifically, would act as a energy shield and thus shield the planet from energies that they know are coming, but they would rather not have us experience.
Right.
Some of it, of course, is good, and some of it is bad, so to speak. There are those people that would maintain that this unknown energy from the universe is going to cause, a mass ascension into some other density. And then there's the other aspect of it is that they were thinking that, we could reflect off the extra solar radiation. And what they don't understand, of course, is that you can't reflect the magnetism. The magnetism squeezes all the continents, pushing down on the magma. Everything heats up just from the friction of it all, and we get the Earth heating up from the bottom out, so to speak.
Right. Well, and all of this is just an indication that, there's certainly many aspects to being here in this time. I mean, many aspects. We're talking about everything that we've all known, we've understood as quote-unquote a reality, is shifting and changing. Whether we are shifting and changing with it is not the point. It's still going to shift and change.
Yeah.
It just is.
Yeah, the terrible nature of reality, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, talking about these diseases and stuff, I think also that was part of your report that talked about that, before, with the different things coming in. And it's just not even it's just the best time in the world to take care of yourself and to be prepared, and it's just the time. That's all we can say about that.
Yeah, you have to be very active about it. We have a tendency to deal with archetypes, and so this whole year is all about transformation.
Sure.
And within the archetype of transformation is the component of being actively involved in the process, because you either are actively involved in the process or the process simply sweeps over you, and you resist it and fight it. It's kind of like pushing against universe. You can either harmonize with it, adjust your attitude, and things go a lot smoother, or you can push against it, and things still progress because it's universe driving you there, and you don't have much say about it. But once you've got the attitude right, well, then things are at least a little bit smoother.
Right, exactly. All right, so we got a question that came in about the scarred woman. There seems to be a lot of interest in this scarred woman.
There always are with the personalities that we get. We've been very good with some of these in getting them. So the question is?
Well, if he considered the scarred woman to be Joni Mitchell, who has Morgellons disease, and the symptoms are identical to Kundalini awakening symptoms, human evolution all across the U.S. Anyone who has Morgellons...
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
Morgellons disease is not to be associated with enlightenment. It doesn't bring Kundalini effects at all. It's a terrible affliction, and I know people that are suffering it.
But, right.
So maybe I'm misunderstanding.
No,
I don't think that that's the person, because the person we're looking at has definite associations with incarceration in Russia or Poland,
right,
or one of the Russia-influenced states. And so unless she's been arrested or has a relative that's been arrested and thrown in jail there, I wouldn't think so.
Right.
But there are many other indications. We're almost labeled her the woman of the strawberry fields because there's an association with wild strawberries in Russia, specifically in the steppes region, that they used to, I don't know if they still anymore, extend for hundreds of miles. And, there's no forest in these areas, really. And you find areas where you have wild strawberry fields that go on for thousands of acres. And there is some geophysical association between that woman and that part of the Urals.
Right.
So maybe this woman will emerge when we see the Russians go in and stomp what's left of the Georgian uprising.
Ah, interesting. And all this is, certainly things for us to look forward to as far as indications as to how this time thing is traveling along here.
Yeah.
So we've got actually two questions, and they're both the same.
Yeah.
Well, sort of the same. I have one question that was, do you see any problems with the flu outbreak spreading? Could this have anything to do with the die-off you've been mentioning in your report? Another one says, are we going to see a lot of sudden deaths due to this flu? and how much physical death will we see in the near future?
Let me state that in both regards, we have only to look back to the end of World War I and the Spanish flu epidemic there to see the conjunction of the two. And so, yeah, it could indeed be a combination effect that we had seen. That is to say, not only are there going to be war issues, but we're also going to have problems relative to the flu and its impact on the populace, a la 1918, that kind of thing. And we also saw similar effects not in the U.S. sphere, but in what we now think of as the developing world after World War II. So that, I suspect, will be the case. And of course, I hate to say it, but insofar as the overall situation on our planet as a species, we must be realistic. So far, in my lifetime, half of the species that existed when I was born are now dead. And I haven't really lived hundreds of years or anything, so it's like, this is really accelerating. In my father's time, that was not the case. In my grandfather's time, there was hardly anything in the level of species extinction. So it is accelerating, and one can expect that there's no reason to think that it would stop. In fact, it should increase based on the whole big squeeze theory.
Okay.
Especially with those species that are magnetically sensitive. They're going to have a real hard time dealing with this.
And and that being said, we have to understand that, it is part of the process, as sad as that is.
That's just the way things are. Yep.
It is. It's so sad. I mean, it's not that we have to like that news, but it is
Right.
part of the process.
Well, I always take comfort in the idea of the duality, again, being expressed here. You can look at things one of two ways. If you're just a regular person and you're going about your life and you're trapped within your own view of the planet, then things happen to you and they're perceived by you as either a blessing or a curse, basically.
Right.
And there's another way of looking at it, and that is that things are. And you just don't apply those words, and you just say that things are, and